Hey guys,
How's it going, folks? Anybody got a smoke?
anyone got a light?
How's it going, Johnny?
Pretty good, man. How's your week been, Mark?
It's been good. It's been good. Looking forward to getting into another BOBA Joe show. This guy looks familiar. Is that Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah, he's going in the submersible to rescue some dodgy diplomat or president or whoever it is. They're all corrupt. Doesn't matter who you're rescuing.
Yeah, just another scummy politician at the end of the day.
Yep.
Episode 19, getting close to 20.
Yeah. Hopefully, I put the right number in. Sometimes I put the wrong number and I'm like, shit, too late now. Doesn't
We'll
matter.
just be hovering around. We'll be hovering around the 18 to 19 mark for the foreseeable
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. But yeah, all time classic movie. Love Escape from New York. And we're going to have a good old yak about this one. Lots of nice, pretty little images and slides in here. Some fun nerd facts and trivia we'll talk about behind the scenes stuff. And before we go on to the first main slide of the images, just to get us in the mood, a little something. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about the old John Carpenter soundtracks as well as we get into things later. But first up, we got the cast. So who was in this film? I know there's a very scary man with a giant walrus moustache and some other folks in there.
Yeah, we've quite the ensemble here, and a couple of John Carpenter regulars showing up.
Yeah.
Of course, you have Adrian Barbeau and Kurt Russell being the kind of Donald Pleasance as well. So that's three there that you'll often see, or at least have seen
It
a
was
few
Loomis,
times.
wasn't it?
Donald Pleasance was Loomis in the
Yeah.
Halloween
Yeah,
movies,
Halloween. That's the one I
and
always think of him from.
he also appears in Prince of Darkness, I believe,
Oh, yes,
as
yes, that's a
well.
good one.
So he's definitely no stranger. Adrian, he's in The Fog, if I'm not mistaken, and
Ah, the fog. That's why I
a
probably
couple
seen
of
him.
other ones. Of course,
Love the fog.
I love her voice because it's the voice of Catwoman in Batman the Animated Series. So I always
Oh,
my
is that
ears
the
always
other,
perk
that's
up
the
when I
reason I
hear.
would have not seen her name. Ah.
Of course, though, you got a couple of you've got a few legendary actors joining
Yeah, you
the
got
usual
Chef from South
Carpenter
Park in
ensemble.
there.
Yeah, you got Chef there, Isaac Hayes. Of course, got the legendary Lee Van Cleef, Harry Dean Stanton,
And you got
Ernest
the Wild Bunch
Borgnine.
member.
That's it, exactly. And as you mentioned at the beginning, we've got the imposing and intimidating, massive Ox Baker, who has a short but quite memorable appearance
Yeah.
in the movie that we'll
Russell
be
got
getting
some
to.
beat up on the on set by him. I've got a good few bruises. Apparently, the stuntman
Yeah,
and Kurt Russell both got beat up because he worked fairly stiff and didn't know how to do movie hits and just was a bit too real for them.
yeah. Ox was old school. He
Oh,
probably
yeah.
didn't want the guys thinking he was some phony baloney show wrestler, so he probably had to lay into his punches just a little bit too stiff.
Mm. It's funny because I rewatched the movie again this week, and it's the first time where I watched it. I went, "Hang on, I know that guy." Because previous times I'd never seen him, but now I've watched that many wrestling documentaries, especially about the southern states, and I went, "Oh, it's that guy! I recognize him. Those bloody eyebrows, that moustache is definitely a." But yeah, we get
Yeah,
this
he's
awesome
quite
opening sequence, which I love. Sorry,
beautiful. I uh I love that John Carpenter font. It's like he uses the same type of lettering for the opening
Do you know
credits
what he
and
said in the
credits.
commentary about that font? That they
What?
basically ran out of money, so that's just the most basic font he could do. But then it becomes known for his films. So no
Yeah, because
budget
it's like
font.
it's in everything. It's in everything. Like you
Yeah.
could nearly miss the main title of the movie and still
And
guess
that's
it was
why
a
it's just
John
black
Carpenter
and
movie.
nothing behind the text. There's no Superman or Star Wars fancy shit. It's just plain text black.
A nice little kind of voiceover slash scroll that brings us up to speed on
Trivia.
what's
Who
going
does the
on.
voiceover?
I am going to say, because I only learned it recently, so I probably will
So
get
did
this
I.
trivia question right. It's Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes,
Jamie
but
Lee Curtis.
I assume when I hear it that it's run through. Probably did a bit of synth modulation to change the octave, but because that's a very old movie trick, take anyone's voice, change the pitch a bit, and all of a sudden it sounds different enough that you don't recognize it, and it makes it a unique voice for a cool intro
Yes,
thing.
because
But I
it's
love these
quite
little simple vector graphics for
electronic.
this opening. They're so nice.
Oh yeah, love it.
It's like
And
I'm
it
playing
seemed
Star Wars arcade again.
I watched this for the first time, I think in the 90s, and
Mhm.
I thought it was just so cool looking, it was just amazing. But I still really like it. Those vector style imageries, they just
I
work.
always love those vector kind of graphics. Then now, like even like had Star Wars Arcade, but even in PS2 Dreamcast, like Res was an amazing game that was very simple, low polygon vector graphics. It looked absolutely beautiful, like almost kind of abstract.
So we have the voiceover narrator, Jamie Lee Curtis, robot Jamie Lee Curtis. She
Robot.
they give us the rundown really of what's going on. So in 1988, I believe, is the year they mentioned the crime rate in the United States goes up to 400%, completely unsustainable. They end up turning the entire island of Manhattan into an actual prison island, which is completely cut off from the
It's like
rest
a
of the main.
giant Alcatraz.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and to give us a little taste of just, I suppose, what type of life and what type of setup we have here. We see a couple of inmates trying to escape, and they're on a raft. They're rowing across the channel, and within a couple of moments, we got a helicopter coming over, shining a spotlight down, and dropping a couple of bombs on them. The first one seems more like a warning shot, but the second one hits bang on and just blows them to pieces. So I think you can hear the guy in the chopper saying something like you've 10 seconds to turn around, but I don't think they gave them the full
Yeah,
10 seconds.
it does remind me of like sort of World War II films or Great Escape or even Escape from Alcatraz or Clint Eastwood. Just that no mercy approach. It's like, no, this is the worst fucking prison imaginable. That's not in space because Riddick's not in there. Worst prison imaginable, and if you do somehow manage to fire the odds, they're just gonna fucking shoot you or blow you up the moment you get out of there.
Yeah, all escapees will be shot. You don't go back.
No,
You just end up dead. But yeah, it's quite the impressive visual to get us kicked off. And as I'm sure we'll probably mention throughout the movie, it was done on a pretty tight budget, so they weren't able,
$6
or
million.
they couldn't afford $6 million. So they weren't going to be shooting on location in New York for the
Mm-hmm.
duration of the movie on a budget like
And it was
that. So, but they
unfeasible
quite
to shoot in New York.
yeah, it just wasn't feasible. It wasn't economically viable. But they have managed to get some footage, most notably the kind of outward shot of the city, and then of course the Statue of Liberty, which is very cleverly kind of inserted into the movie because they do a nice little bit of optical trickery where at the beginning of the shot you kind of see the Statue of Liberty, and as the shot kind of pulls
Yes,
down,
it
there's
pans
a
across.
little
It's
bit
like
of
steady cam.
yeah, a little bit of a transition, and all of a sudden we're looking at this supposed Liberty Island security
Mm.
control base, but
An entirely
it's
different
not in
city.
New York. It's a totally different city. But I have to say, I never noticed until it was pointed out to me what was going on. Because look, I'm living over here in Ireland. A lot of American cities, you could tell me any city was New York. I think I'd
It's
probably
Gotham,
believe you.
Chicago.
It's awesome, yeah. But no, really, really cleverly executed on how they managed to do that. So
Yeah.
they just afforded about enough footage of New York, of actual New York, that they needed, and I think the rest is all shot in like St. Louis, Missouri.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of visual trickery going on a low budget. And for my 2 cents, I think that if they had had a larger budget and if they had had more access to New York, I don't think it would have been such a good a film. I think the film would have been worse off that they had to really get creative on that budget and make it work. And because of that, there's some really fantastic stuff going on in this that just works. And you would not know how small the budget was with without having someone of the class of John Carpenter working on it in lesser hands. It would have been just another B grade nothing film. But he's got so many tricks up his sleeve. But yeah, the next part of this opening sequence, we get old Snake being marched down the corridor with the old armed guards. And we do find out that he's like a kind of ex special forces guy. He's got a particular skill set, like a Solid Snake or a James Bond or a Jack Bauer kind of character. And he exists in this world where basically everyone's corrupt, and he's like the one morally sane, reasonable man who just doesn't give a fuck about anything or the politics or day-to-day stuff. He's just living in the moment, and he gets a sort of stay of execution because he's going to be sentenced to prison as well. But then instead he gets offered the chance to go on a mission.
That's right. And as you mentioned, he is a man with a particular set of skills. And in this world full of dodgy, corrupt people, even though he is a criminal himself, at least when it comes to Snake Plissken, he is what he is. He doesn't try to hide the
Yeah,
fact that he's anything other than what he is, and
and he's still
it
the most
comes across
moral
right
character of
from
the
the
film.
get-go. Oh, easily. And we get the real badass vibe off him straight away. The whole eye patch kind of.
Yeah,
He just
that
has
eye
this kind
patch
of
and the
look
leather
about
jacket
him.
and the tank top, or
He's
singlet,
got
singlet
the
slash tank top.
he's got the 1,000 yard stare. This guy
Yeah,
has seen some action.
he's watched all
Um,
the spaghetti westerns with Clint Eastwood. He knows how to do that stare.
he knows how to do the stare, and depending on what version of the movie you watch, the version that most people have seen, it's exactly as we described. You're first introduced to Snake when you see him being hauled into the detention center. But in the original cut of the movie,
Hmm.
they actually filmed the bank robbery scene, or the attempted bank robbery scene, in which Snake is actually apprehended, and they decided to cut it out for the theatrical version. I can actually understand why. The first time I watched it, I thought it was okay, but I can see
Just the
why it
running time
kind
and
of,
pacing, you think? Like,
yeah, it does kind of
I
yeah,
don't think I've
it makes
seen
the
it. Like, I
pace of the
know
movie
of
a bit
the
off.
different cuts, but I think I've only seen the theatrical one. I think, like Terminator, I think it works best when it's kind of lean and mean and there's not too much fluff in there. We know there is backstory, and if you look into it, you can find out, but you don't have to see everything.
I agree. I agree. And I suppose like the way it is with that, with when they did have the bank robbery moment in it, you're essentially watching a botched bank robbery, because he doesn't pull off the robbery, he gets apprehended. So it's probably
Hmm.
not a really good introduction. If you're supposed to be getting across this guy is like a bit of a badass, you probably don't want to open up the movie with him just getting like nabbed by the cops straight away.
Which also makes me think, like, obviously, Snake Plissken was a major inspiration on the character of Solid Snake in the Metal Gear series. But when you consider the bank robbery, it's more to these big boss than Solid Snake.
Oh yeah.
He's the
He's just
criminal.
there for the money. He just
Yeah.
wants those Benjamins.
But yeah, I took this close-up one here. I just love some of the production stuff in here. There's old like computers and radars and little bips and dials and lights. I love this stuff so much. I just miss like the late 70s, early 80s. You saw big mainframes and practical bits of hardware and stuff, and it filmed so well. Like modern films, I don't want to look at a fucking touch screen or a little phone. Give me some big, bulky, chunky, spacey stuff. Much more interesting to look at.
Yeah, and
Give
we
me a
kind of
pod.
mentioned that as we were talking about Outlands last week, and it was
Yes, so
a
very
similar
similar
mindset.
field. That's why I thought let's do this after this, because it reminded me so much of the production design of it.
We got to look here at the interior of Air Force One. So what we're brought up to speed on is that while Snake Plissken has been hauled in to be arrested and charged or booked, whatever, while all this is going on, we learned this Air Force One, which is carrying the President of the United States, has been hijacked by a group. I think they're calling themselves like the Workers' Liberation Front or something
Yeah,
like that.
it's very sort
They've
of like
managed to
communist
take
type feel to it.
they're generic terrorists, maybe would be a
Yeah, but they're not
an
nasty. They're
easier way.
standing up for something,
Yeah.
but we're not really quite sure because everything's so corrupt and like, what are they going to accomplish?
So they managed to take control of Air Force One. They've barricaded themselves into the cockpit. The security team can't shoot the doors off because the cockpit's depressurized.
Yeah,
So
pretty
the
nice.
decision is made to, because the president is in possession of a highly sensitive top secret data audio tape about
A
nuclear
bit of a
fusion, which
MacGuffin,
apparently is, yeah, a little bit of a MacGuffin. It's quite important apparently for this world leader summit that he was due to attend.
important for the plot.
Yeah. So it's decided that since they reckon they won't be able to take back control of the plane, that the president should try to escape in a literal escape pod, which,
I
if
love this
such things
pod. It's
actually
like it's
exist.
very retro looking with the colors and the panels and all that. And
Yeah, I wonder, do you think that's a real thing? Yeah,
I
or is
don't
it
know if
something
there's
that's
a
just
pod, but I
fabricated?
would assume that. I mean, at the very worst, you would be like special forces. Two guys shove them out the fucking door with a parachute and get. They would have some kind of plan.
Yeah.
But I imagine it'll be
Now the
practical and
pod,
fail safe.
I like the idea of this pod that could just be ejected down, and even if you like
Yeah,
hit something at high impact, it will just cushion you and protect you. I'm guessing that that's the
yeah.
idea of
And you
it.
don't have to
So
be the Incredible Hulk to survive like the Avengers. You can be Donald Pleasance, the old doctor for bloody Michael Myers Halloween, and survive.
the plane, it's commandeered. They lose control. They crash, but it's okay because the president's been ejected. The only problem
The
is that
plane's
his
completely trashed, though.
the plane is completely trashed, and also it's crashed, and the president's pod has landed right in the middle of New York, which, as we already outlined,
Good
is
place
now a
to be.
maximum security prison island. So we've
It's
got
got
the
lots of
president
nice
of the
little
United
vector
States.
computer screens in New York, so let us know what's going on there.
Yeah, I love just how the no, vector screens are great for portraying objects being like tracked and traced. Like I love like just the little
Yeah,
representation of
I'm
the
going to get my
pod hitting the
Vectrix out right
building.
now.
But yeah, what a shit show we found ourselves in, because now we have the president, behind enemy lines, so to speak, in a maximum security island prison. So the security team led by Lee Van Cleef take a chopper down to the crash site. They can't locate the president. We're introduced to a really kind of like, I don't know how you describe him, Weasley looking, leechy looking dude who
There it is.
advises them that they better get out of here
Just
because
a rent boy.
they're going to kill. Yeah, they're going to kill the president. He shows him a severed finger with the presidential ring on it, so Lee Van Cleef knows he's not fucking around, and he orders the entire security team to get the hell out of there because they need to go back to the security, installation and rethink this whole plan, because the clock is ticking, which is another aspect of this movie. The president, he needs to get to the summit in time with the information, and while he's
Yeah, the
trapped
old time
here,
limit.
obviously that's not the old time limit, the old
Now,
clock counting
do you know
down.
the rule about time limits? If you've got 24 hours, you call Jack Bauer. If you've got 23 hours, that's a Snake Plissken mission.
Yeah, you gotta got Snake. You have to have Snake on call for those type
Yeah.
of time limits. So we got a pretty nice moment with Lee Van Cleef and Kurt Russell.
And I love
So
seeing these landline phones, these rotary landline phones, man. There's not much better than before phones got all
conveys
wireless.
it conveys seriousness. If someone
Yeah.
picks up that phone and puts it down, turns and gives somebody a stern or serious look, there's something important going down.
And if you want to slam it, you can slam it down. Like, you can't do that with modern phones.
I think it's really cool as well that in Lee Van Cleef's office, he has lots of old time Western rifles
Yeah.
hanging on the wall, which I thought was a nice touch, a little callback to some of
Yeah,
his
and it's another hint
previous
that this
work.
is basically a Western film.
So it's a nice scene. It's a nice scene, obviously, just for in terms of driving the plot forward, because we've Lee Van Cleef making this offer to Snake about
But I love he's
going
got his
in
handgun
behind.
the whole time he's talking to him.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's like,
He
Snake's
knows
fucking dangerous.
he is dangerous. You can't take any chances with this guy.
Yeah.
And it says Snake, he's such a badass, he just opens up the box of cigarettes, takes out one, lights it,
Yeah.
doesn't ask,
I
just
mean,
take.
he's got them handcuffs, but I mean, if he wanted to, he'd be across that desk in 2 seconds and choking him with the fucking handcuffs. If he wanted to.
So he makes Snake the offer, and the offer is that he will get a full presidential pardon for all his previous crimes if he agrees to go into New York and rescue the president. We get the really funny
President of
line,
what?
president of what? What fucking line?
And they got the flag behind him when he says it.
So yeah, he there's a little bit of back and forth, and he begrudgingly agrees to the deal. At which point we're kind of whisked through the facility as he's given a breakdown of
Yeah.
the equipment that he's going to be using and what the mission will
Very James
entail.
Bond, where it's like, here's your special equipment.
Yeah, they kit him out for what probably at the time was some pretty advanced stuff. Like, to be fair, he gets his cool like
All those
silent
ninja stars,
submachine
man.
gun. Oh man, yeah, he's got some pretty cool stuff. I love his like scope pistol, and yeah,
Yeah, I
just
love
the
the
big
scope pistol.
all his little tracking devices and communication devices. Another reason, I suppose, it's good to give a little bit more context to this. Apart from being an actual wanted criminal, Snake is also a decorated war hero. He has like 2 Purple Hearts
Yeah.
for bravery. He's like the youngest guy on record apparently to receive like a presidential honor. So he's quite the the colorful military record, and he is also one of the few people skilled in the art of piloting a special type of stealth plane that can go in undetected, which is another reason he's been selected for this particular job.
Yeah, he's got skills out the wazoo. Before we move on to the next images here, also the line, like president of what? It's kind of like, well, this was filmed and shot in the 80s. It was originally written back in the 70s on the back end of the whole Watergate Nixon scandal, where people were not terribly happy with old Tricky Dick. So that was part of the inspiration of the writing of this film. And also Carpenter said that the movie Charles Bronson in Death Wish was also another major influence on the kind of New York as this crazy, chaotic jungle. It's like there was another influence on the kind of style of this film. And before we move on, I'll put another big close up one here. I love this New York graphic here behind them on the big screen. Very important things going on in telephones, but I just love these graphics, man, and the colors got some Boba Joe colors in there for sure.
Oh yeah, I love it, and that, like I said, it really conveys a sense of urgency when you got someone on a
And you can see
landline phone.
Van Cleef's little ear stud that he's got. It's like,
Yeah, I love Lee Van Cleef. He's a total
oh, he's
badass,
brilliant, brilliant.
and really really well cast in this particular role as well. So we're getting into the nitty
Don't
gritty
mess
now
with
of the
Sabata.
specifics. Yeah, yeah, we're gonna find out exactly what Snake's mission is all about, because as we mentioned earlier, we're on a timer here. The clock is ticking,
Yep, the old
and
death
you
clock.
know, Snake, he's after he's been given his equipment, he's taken to see a doctor who,
Oh, is
he's
he a
going to
happy
inject
doctor?
him.
Doctor Who?
Doctor Who. He he injects Snake in the neck. Of course, Snake, he gets injected, and then after being injected, asks what he's been injected with.
They got his
So
consent, of course, didn't they, Mark? Like all good doctors do.
oh, of course, yeah, he didn't have to sign anything. He
No waivers.
by just showing up, he gave consent. But the doctor kind of lets it slip that, look, you've just been injected with two minuscule explosive devices that themselves will actually gradually deteriorate and erode, and after about, you know 23 hours, they're just going to explode. Two tiny little explosions which will blow the arteries out
Mhm.
of your neck and kill you instantly. So
I
the
assume it's
reason
like a
this has been
chemical
done,
action or whatever.
yeah, I'd some type of chemical explosive future thing that, may or
Mhm.
may not exist in the present day. But
Oh, it works
it's
perfectly for the.
revealed. Yeah, it's a brilliant, brilliant plot device for especially putting the sense of urgency on the story. It's also, I suppose it's a good insurance policy on the part of the security forces, because there is nothing really to stop Snake from just turning the stealth glider around and heading towards Mexico or Canada or wherever he wants to go to escape the American authorities. So by injecting him with the explosive, and also advising him that they're the only people who can neutralize it, it kind of gives them that insurance policy that if he is successful, or at least gives him the drive to be successful and to actually come back and complete the mission, as opposed to
Not just
just
a
turning
takeoff,
tail. And yeah, because
because
I think
otherwise
a
he's
lot
just
of
going
us
to
would be.
escape the moment they let him go.
Oh yeah, yeah. Escape from New York, the shortest movie
Yeah,
ever. They gave the guy
yeah.
the jet, and he just
5 minutes.
escaped.
Oh, these charges, take them out my neck, put them on the wall, big hole, walk through it. I'm out of here. Just don't drown in the cold water.
But it's also, I suppose, a good way of emphasizing that the good guys aren't necessarily good guys either. Like, they're willing to
Nah.
um essentially let this man die if he doesn't do what they need him to do. So
And he is a condemned criminal, and a society where it's just, everyone who goes into the New York Island for whatever the crime is, once they go in, they never come out. So it's more than a death sentence. You've got to live there, but it's just it's just the fucking warriors and gangs everywhere. So you join a gang or you're dead, like any kind of person.
yeah, and it's almost like, because we saw earlier, I suppose, in those initial moments when the security team went in trying to retrieve the president the first time round. It's your first proper look that you get at what are like supposed to be the streets of New York, and it's pretty grim, like, and scary, really, for want of a better term. Like, it's so dark and desolate. There's debris everywhere, wrecked cars. It's just like a kip, an absolute kip. It looks like Dublin after the riots the other night. Like, it's just a complete, yeah, just a horrible, horrible environment to have to live in. We got a little bit of an explainer as well, near the beginning of the movie, that the inmates have managed to establish their own source of fuel. They believe some of them are using like steam powered generators. There are some vehicles still operating. There's even
It's a bit Mad
street
Max.
lights, and yeah, there's a lot of kind of homebrew and self-invention stuff going on that's kind of keeping parts of the city in power and relatively livable compared to what you would expect in an island that's completely cut off from society. But it's definitely not somewhere I'd like to spend any
No.
time at all.
But yeah, we get the awesome sequence of the glider coming in where he lands on top of the World Trade Center. We see the old Master Life clock with the beautiful phosphorescent digital images that I love. Well, I love them everywhere except for one place. I do not like them in the bedroom because it's a light that'll keep you awake. But in the other room, I love a
Yeah.
bit of a phosphorescent digital stuff. We see more vector graphics as he comes in for the little soft landing. And he makes his way through the buildings down to the grim and gritty New York City streets, which most of which are not actually in New York, but are stand-ins for they use in other cities, like I said earlier, Manhattan and St. Louis, to depict the prison island. Production used parts of St. Louis, Missouri. The city's decaying architecture provided a suitable backdrop for the film's post-apocalyptic setting. So they used some actual ruined parts of a city after some actual disasters and shit that they couldn't afford to fix in a real world city, but stood in real well in terms of production value.
Oh, it's brilliant location shooting and just perfect
And the
fit.
nighttime
Obviously,
shooting as well is what makes it so much.
yeah, and there was for a movie that was on such a tight budget, they had a really hard working crew of guys coming out every
Mm-hmm.
night, and more or less like they would come with these big dump trucks and skips and empty out all the debris onto the streets and place it how they wanted for the shot. And then at the end of every night shooting, they had to go around, gather up all the stuff they'd put down
Yeah.
that night, put it all back into the dump trucks, and get it ready for the next night shooting. And that process
And
would
they did
be
fill up nearly
repeated.
whole streets for some of those long shots, which was really impressive.
It's funny as well because like in the various kind of making ofs and commentaries, Carpenter's like, oh, and we were able to get permission to, turn the electricity off for like 12 blocks and stuff like that. It's like, I bet you anybody who lived in the area at the time just hated you. I say they were just like, oh, these guys coming to film their goddamn movie, and I'm working a
Mhm.
night shift, and I'm the only guy who has to like get up, in the middle of the night, and I can't even turn on my lights or anything because they're shooting this goddamn movie outside my apartment. But no, look, at least though it was worth it for us, the viewer, because like I said, it just paints this spectacularly grim, apocalyptic picture. And even in some of the stills we're looking at from when Snake has first infiltrated the city, like that, just that whole setup of the crashed Air Force One with the fires around it and like people scurrying around it trying to salvage bits and pieces. It's so apocalyptic
Yeah,
and just such
and like
powerful imagery.
that crash is like only a very short sequence in the film, but it's a major bit of work as far as what they put into it, because it says in the production notes there was a combination of practical effects and editing. Instead of filming an actual crash, the filmmakers used a dismantled model of the front of Air Force One and filmed it from different angles. The shots were then edited together to create the illusion of a crash. So it's fairly seamless too, like when you watch it. And we're so used to modern films and effects and all that, but to do what they did on that budget and to have the model making and then the real the full size and the miniatures and combine that all that together seamlessly is like a lot of skill and craft to do. It's very easily to have bad transitions and to make things look a bit shit. I mean, just look at these stupid videos I make on YouTube with bad transitions.
Not at all. Not at all. And now I don't want to jump the gun too much, because I'm sure someday we will speak about this
Yeah.
film. But this movie does have a sequel called Escape from LA. And one thing I will say, I do
No.
enjoy Escape from LA. I do enjoy Escape from LA. However, the the visual effects in Escape from LA look like absolute
That
garbage
early
compared to
CG
this
stuff,
movie.
man, is oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, not good.
And this goes back to something that comes up nearly every time we have a discussion on movies, where it's like, I will take a location or a set or a
Yeah,
model over dodgy CGI any day, and
you don't want to see
especially
Captain
dodgy
Ron
CGI.
surfing tidal waves.
Yeah, I don't want to see Captain Ron in 1996 on a blue screen pretending he's
Yeah,
surfing a tidal wave, you know?
yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, not every effect in Escape from New York is dated well. Like, there are still a few things where you might go, oh, I
Mhm.
can see that that's like a matte shot or whatever. But for the most part, the
Kurt
movie
Russell was just
does
a
hold up.
mannequin on strings.
But I just thought I'd mention it because I do think this film has to be given credit for looking so well after all this time, when a newer film
It does. I'm
gets a
really impressed
sequel.
by it. And a
And
lot of it is
like I
the skill
said,
of John Carpenter, like hiding stuff in frames, edges, lighting. Oh, actually, it reminds me they did kind of interesting lighting on this, where most of the time you need proper, lights for a film, but they were using different cameras that could magnify the existing light in just about any scene. So some scenes they were able to actually do with fairly naturalistic lighting, like bits of fires and small bulbs and things that normally would just give you a big heap of black image you couldn't see nothing on. But it really adds to the kind of ambience and style of this film, that it's so minimally lit and it's just dark through the whole thing. But it's not dark like watching a fucking third generation bootleg of Friday the 13th part 2 or 3, where you can't see a goddamn thing what's going on a fuzzy old CRT. You can see everything perfectly so well in each frame of this film, despite it being so dark. So it really shows the skill and craft that went into it.
it really adds to it, and it's a testament to John Carpenter's direction as well, that he was able to put it together in such a way. Because, if this had been a bigger production and a little bit more big budget Hollywood, they would have had like a team of lighting guys who would have wanted to come in and just light
Yeah.
up everything. And
They had some
it's
of
the
those
same. It's
union
the same.
guys on the tea breaks and
Yeah, yeah. And funnily enough, you should mention that, because we do think of James Cameron, and James Cameron did make some of the models for this movie.
he
You
can
would
put some lights
wonder.
up too if he wants to.
He can. I wonder, was he at a young age somewhat inspired by the techniques used in this movie? Because later on, when he
I
would
would assume
make
so because he was a
Aliens,
real. I mean, Cameron rather was a real jobber, and I'm not saying that in negative. But I mean, he worked a lot of jobs. So I'm doing wordplay for wrestling fan. Um, all the way from the Corman days up through other films, he worked on a lot of films uncredited and did all sorts of shit, from fucking getting the coffee to someone's lunch to building shit out of wood and metal and paper and painting fucking paintings. And he did everything. He did everything he could possibly do on a film, and that's how he learned all his craft. But yeah, the
well,
matte
what
paintings he did on this were fantastic.
one thing that always stood out to me, or something at least that I remembered from watching the Aliens making of, was how Cameron had a massive problem with the 20th Century Fox kind of lighting guys, because they just wanted everything
Uh-huh.
as well lit as possible, where he was more about natural
Fucking
natural
aliens.
lighting and shadows and stuff. So and I'd imagine
It's like, have
Carpenter
you
was
seen
on
a horror
similar
movie
lines with it.
lighting, guys?
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, imagine, even just to take what's in front of us right now, imagine that moment where Snake walked into that abandoned theater, or that old busted up theater where he's first introduced to Cabby and all these guys. Imagine if that building was just like lit normally. Like, how
Yeah.
stupid would
I
that
mean,
look?
any
Or
of these here, all of them have, look at the lighting. It's all coming at sort of an angle. There's an orange embery glow in just about any of these, with like actual fires and bits of lights and stuff at weird angles, and like the old decaying theater where they had live shows in New York. Like, like all of that. There's still other lighting. Like I mean, the top left there on Snake's pants, you can see there's properly lighting going on there. But all the fires and the orangey glow gives such a stylistic thing to it, including as the scene goes on here, where he tracks down the president's vital data monitor, but the old scumbums who have kidnapped him have taken the monitor and chucked on some other guy who's just like some homeless guy hanging out down in the sewers or whatever. But again, that lighting, if that guy's face was fully lit, he would have seen it wasn't the president from across the room, and the whole scene would have been right.
You recognize that guy with the president's
I don't.
armband?
Who is he? I don't know who he is.
So he's another kind of semi-regular in the Carpenter verse. He is actually the guy in They Live that kind of betrays the human race essentially and goes to live
Nice.
with the aliens. He's a bum at the beginning of They Live, but when you see him later on in the movie, he's wearing a suit and he's at the whole kind of conference where the aliens are like
And he's
coming
a bum
together to
again.
celebrate. Yeah. So he was typecast.
That's some continuity. But yeah, we'll go on to the next one here, which we skipped ahead a moment ago because we're talking about the old production and such, how they just like got a whole bunch of crap and just put it out there in the street to make it look decayed. And funnily enough, when the places all run down in decay, use some actual garbage, works pretty well.
Oh yeah.
And we'll go on to
And
the
even
next one. But the lighting and just the distance in this is just like amazing. Look how far that street goes down there. It just looks so good.
and properly freaky the first time. Because I was pretty young when I watched this. I was definitely getting horror movie vibes in the beginning.
Oh yeah, especially a certain sequence that's coming up here.
Yes, yeah, exactly. The sequence that's coming
At
up
the chock
here
full of
because
nuts.
yeah, because Snake he's on the hunt. We've just discovered that the president is not the president because it was just some random bum wearing his arm tracker device. So Snake he's feeling pretty dejected and he's wandering the streets. He goes to a place that's near where the president's crashed pod is and literally pulls
Yeah,
up
because his
a
mission's fucked at
folder.
this point.
Yeah, he's probably thinking like, what am I going to do? I've got this shit in my neck that's going to explode, in the next few hours, and for all I know, the president is chopped up into pieces, and he's not going to be able to get him back. He literally pulls up a
And it
folding
does look
chair.
like the president's dead at this point. We don't have any other indication otherwise.
Yeah, I believe he was dead. I'd probably
Hmm.
even be skeptical of the people knowing that he was the president, like because you might have just assumed that the underdwellers, the crazies, just happened upon that pod and ate him or something. You don't even know if they knew it was the president. You just don't know what
All
would have
those
happened
balls
to
from
him.
Fallout.
But yeah, Snake, he's sitting on his folded chair, kind of contemplating what's going to happen, and next thing, we start seeing
You get the guy
some.
starts banging this pipe, and all of a sudden these weirdos just start popping out of everywhere. Fucking Night of the Living Dead style, just like real shambling sewer dwellers.
Yeah, it's like the Rat King from Teenage Mutant Ninja
Yes,
Turtles
it
type
is. It
dudes are
is.
just all like
They do
emerging.
like they
But
do
yeah,
come out like rats. They just come out everywhere. They just start popping out,
so yeah,
popping out of fucking woodwork.
has to take shelter in chock full of nuts. It's the
Yeah.
safe haven in this dangerous time.
And he does meet that
Uh,
lady there who's like, maybe you can help me get out of here, Snake, and I'll do you a favor. And he's like, yeah, I've got a mission. And next thing you know, the damn floor just caves open and the guy's something pulling it down like the hell style, these little rat zombie dudes.
yeah, that moment kind of freaked me out a bit as a kid. I just wasn't really ready for it. Like I just wasn't expecting them
Yeah.
to be like emerging
Yeah,
from
it's a real
the
Sam
floorboards.
Raimi thing, drag me to hell style.
Plus, I don't know what it is about that lady. The first time you see her, you almost think she's going to be an actual character. There's just something about her.
Yeah,
She gives off a bit of a vibe
that or
that
a female
maybe this is
Keith
going to
Sutherland who might be a vampire.
yeah. you just kind of get a bit of a vibe that, oh, maybe this is going to be somebody who's going to be a companion that's going to help him out. But
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
she's
They
dead
hint at
within
that.
like
They
a
just
minute.
fuck with your head.
Yeah, of course it's Cabby that's going to be the real important companion. So we should probably I
That's his
suppose
real
backtrack a
soulmate in
bit.
this film.
Yeah, so we'd mentioned earlier that Snake had entered this kind of abandoned, or not abandoned, but disheveled kind of rundown theater where a group of individuals are watching this kind of drag show take place, and one of them is Cabby here, who noticed Snake and recognized him as Snake Plissken. I suppose his legendary reputation preceded him, so he was identified. But Cabby's kind of the glue that kind of holds everything together here. He befriends Snake and he rescues him from the group of crazies who are chasing him down an alley, and he takes him for a little spin in his cab.
Yeah, and it's a good way to get about because you're walking around New York and most vehicles aren't functional. There's not as many cars as Mad Max, but there are a couple of cars going around, like the old Duke. But yeah, the cabbie gets him further across town, and he meets up with Adrian Barbeau and the other fellow who seems to have a bit of knowledge about the inner workings of how this crazy prison society works.
Yes, Harry Dean Stanton, who plays Brain, given the nickname of Brain because he's probably like the only really smart guy left in the city.
Yeah,
And from what we learned, he's been doing a lot of work for the Duke of New York, who's pretty much the head crime boss that runs the place. And this work involves creating fuel for the few cars that they have left. He's also working on planning an escape route out of the city for all the inmates. At the moment, the main bridge that connects the city to the mainland has been mined, but Brain has been gradually mapping out the locations of all the mines, so eventually they'll be able to just navigate the bridge without getting blown up, hopefully. Uh, just going to take a moment as well to mention that Adrian Barbeau just looks stunning in this movie. Like
indeed she
she's
does.
smoking hot. Yeah, she looks great. She looks really really good. We also learned that Brain and Snake actually knew each other in a previous life. They'd done a couple of jobs together, but we get the impression, or it's more or less bluntly said by Snake, that Brain left him high and dry on the last job they did. He got away and Snake got caught, so there's a bit of bad blood there between the two of them, but also a mutual respect as well.
Yeah, and I get the sense that he pretty much wants to kill him right here, but based on that, but strategically he needs his help, so that's kind of the reason he doesn't kill him here.
That we kind of get a first look at the Duke here as well. Just as our heroes are kind of leaving to set about and helping Snake locate the president, we see that the Duke and his cronies are just pulling up because they want a word with Brain. And I always just thought it was hilarious that the Duke's main ride has like chandeliers stuck
Yeah, they
on
should leave the
to
disco
the hood of the
ball
car.
because what it's all
Yeah,
junk. It's
brilliant.
all very Mad Max style, where it's like using whatever you find in the world that's around you to make you look like a bit of a pimp or a king. Presumably, you've probably killed Wesley Snipes and Christopher Walken, previous kings of New York, and now you're the Duke of New York, so no one's going to mess with you.
Yeah. And the Duke is number one.
Duke is number one.
So we've got the Duke. Yeah, the Duke. He's called up to the residence of Brain. He's looking to have a discussion with him, but Brain's already on his way out of there, and they're going to try and rescue the president who's being held in a what seems to be like an abandoned train station. They're holding him in one of
Yeah,
the train carriages. So Brain goes up and tries to schmooze with the guards and just talk a bit of trash with them to try and distract them from the fact that Snake is actually secretly sneaking into the train carriage, and he's going to
Yeah, he
try to
is
rescue
sneaking in.
the president. Sneaking in, he also manages to like. Does he like gets a dude in the head there, one of his throwing stars or a knife or something?
Yeah.
He takes him out pretty fast. So
And
we
in the
think
actual
it's
film, the guy that was sneaking was the stunt double for Kurt Russell, they say in the commentary.
oh, interesting. I did not know that.
There was the guy that was running along the top of the train and the shadows in the background.
Brilliant, brilliant. So we think that this is kind of almost like nearly mission complete here, because Snake he's got the president in
Yeah.
hand. What could possibly go wrong? He's just going to escape New York now, but that's not the case, because shortly after exiting the carriage, Snake is caught and has found himself in a bit of hot water.
Yeah, just like the old namesake and character inspired old Solid Snake. You get through the bitty old video game levels and you find a bit of a boss and you think, that's it, I'm done. And like, no, secret boss, an extra level, and a whole bunch of other stuff happens just when you think you're out. And they pull you back in, pull you back into it. And your death clock or your master life clock is still ticking away. And we've got some rejects from the Warriors trying to do a bit of cosplay here with found whatever they found lying around, their Nana's scarf and a bit of plate mail. Cut away, seeing the old Lee Van Cleef is he's keeping an eye on that clock counting down. And there is a couple of bits where Snake manages to get on the old communicator and say, well, earlier on he says when he finds the hobo that like the president's gone and probably dead, because we found his monitor. But then later on he's like, well, no, I've actually found him, but he still has to get him the fuck out of here and figure out a way to get him out of the there, because the crazies trashed his glider that he stashed on top of the World Trade Center. So that option is gone and they can't use it anymore.
We got a nice taste as well of the type of man that the Duke is, because we see him pretty much torturing old Donald Pleasance here, the poor president of the United
Comedic
States.
effect.
He has him for comedian. Hey, look, I find it very entertaining. But he's got old president here chained to the wall. He's using Snake's gun to kind of shoot around him and shooting bullet holes into the wall beside him. And he eventually gets, I guess, a lucky shot off, and it hits the briefcase that the president is carrying, which causes the data tape or the information tape to fall out, and that's picked up by one of Duke's, that little Weasley henchman guy. He picks it up and I guess takes it for safekeeping.
Yeah, I
The
think
whole
that's one of the
time,
Mythbusters. I don't think bullets will open briefcases, but it works for the movie.
maybe in the futuristic year of
Yeah.
1997, they had
It's a
special
real. You
bullets
can
that
tell they've got
that
like a
could do
bit of
that.
string or something. The way that just opens all of a sudden. See,
But
but an old fishing
yeah,
line
like
from
the
off the
Duke,
camera.
the whole time this is going on with the president kind of being harassed and tortured here, he has to repeat back that the Duke is the boss and the Duke is number one.
He is the boss.
He's being trained.
He's the
He
boss
is
of
the
Death
boss.
Love
He
Shack.
is number one.
But yeah, I
Yeah,
think Hazen's too cool for school. Like, he's awesome in this role.
yeah, he really pulls it off. He was perfectly cast. Really nice shot here of three of these guys together as well. I love that gun actually. Snake's
Yeah,
like
I think Adrian
modified.
Barbeau likes their gun too. By the way, she's looking at it.
Hmm. Yeah, she likes to look at us, and we like to look at her. And yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head when you used the term Warriors rejects earlier, because a lot of these guys in the background look like they could be traveling to go to Cyrus's meeting about what's happening with the
Yeah.
gang situation. But
And like, I mean, John Carpenter doesn't mention it in the production history or the commentary, but I just assume it's one of those iconic films. It can't not be an influence on it.
yeah, I think the whole now I could be wrong or misremembering things, but like
mean, you got
New
to
York.
train guys trying to get to the other side of New York. It's like,
Yeah. And look, New York had that kind of reputation in this period of
yeah,
time as just being a rough town, quite
it's full of
crime
scum
ridden and
bums.
whatnot. Exactly. But so we get a bit of so Snake is currently being held in captivity by the Duke and his cronies, and we get a few interesting moments start to occur. So first of all, the suitcase that the president was carrying is deliberately left out to be picked up by the authorities. And when they get the case, they realize that the tape is gone, and there's also a ransom note left with a demand from the Duke saying that they want to be freed in exchange for the president's life.
Yeah, it's pretty
We
much a
also
bullshit note,
see,
just saying fuck you to the guys who collected.
yeah, yeah. We also see Brain plotting an escape of his own because he doesn't know how Snake managed to get into the city and thinks that he probably has
Yeah,
some
but he
mode
works
of
there.
transportation. Yeah, so he works it out, but he still realizes he needs Snake,
Hmm.
to actually
It's very
get this.
Sherlock Holmes style. He goes logic and deduction. It's like, well, there's a wall, we can't get in. Low the tunnel's height, and he's like, oh, what's the tallest building? World Trade Center. That's where he fucking got in. Why to get? And he worked it
Works
out
it
just
out,
by deduction and using his intelligence.
and the whole time, the timer, the clock is ticking, but
Yeah, I love seeing the close-ups of that, and it reminds me very much of the Outland clock. That shot was covered. Those
yes,
guys are covered with yesterday.
many parallels with Outland here. Definitely getting the Outland vibes. For Snake, though, he's going nowhere for the time being because
No, but Sean
he's
Connery did
about
not
to.
fight a big, strange wrestler man in the later act.
He did not. He did not. Sean
Said
Connery did
Peter
not
Boyle.
participate in. He did not participate in Mortal Kombat for the amusement of the Duke of New
No,
York.
he didn't get high on any lands.
And this is so first of all, Ox Baker, famous pro wrestler from back in the day, and perfectly cast as this Neanderthal like
He just looks
fighting
like
sort of.
himself. Like some
Yeah,
wrestlers, they dress up in films almost unrecognizable, but you see him, that's definitely him. There's no one else it could be.
yeah, he's even kind of wearing his like typical gear. His beard and eyebrows look the exact same. Like they've changed really nothing about him. He could almost just be himself. That just got, maybe he did a crime
Yeah.
and just got dropped in to
Yeah.
New York. But
He was like the
the
first
cool
guy in
thing
there.
about this, like it's a proper wrestling ring, even though it's kind of done up to look very dystopian with the flames on the turnbuckles and stuff. On any of the shots you kind of see kind of outer shots of the ring, you can see all the pallets and springs and the general construction of it. It is actually, by the looks of things, a proper real wrestling ring that they've actually set up, which I thought
Yeah,
was
you can
was
see,
was
see
pretty
on the top
cool.
of that one there.
Exactly. So Snake does battle with old Ox, and it's a mix of combat. First of all, we get a little bit of hand to hand, but then it gets particularly brutal when both
Yeah, like
participants
Gladiator style.
are given. Yeah, it's the gladiator style. It's your shield, which is a garbage can lid, and your sword, which is like a baseball bat with nails in it. So like it's the modern day New York equivalent of the gladiatorial battles of
And it's
old.
very believable because that's
Um,
kind of crap that they have lying around.
yeah, it exactly. It is. It's perfectly believable. Of course, the whole
Apparently,
time this.
mm, yep,
Oh, I was just going to say that the whole time that this is going on, we see that Brain and his partner are infiltrating the facility because they're going to try and get the president themselves and get
yeah,
the
it's
hell out
George
of there. Of
Valentine up
course,
there with his hair, gorgeous hair.
yeah, yeah, it's a lovely blonde wig on him there. Um, at this point of the movie as well, the little Weasley freaky guy gets his comeuppance when he gets stabbed in the gut by old Brain. So it's all happening. We've got this kind of rescue attempt going on in the background this whole time. Snake is battling for his life, against this gargantuan foe, who he does eventually get the better of and subdue with the good old tried and tested wrestling maneuver of hit man in back of the head with naily bat and he will die.
Yeah, like in that kind of behind the scenes of this fight slash wrestling gladiator scene here, both Kurt Russell and the stuntman actually got injured and bruised up quite a fair bit. Apparently, the stuntman got smacked around so much by Ox Baker that Kurt Russell had to do even majority of his own actual stunts in the scene with the wrestler. And then he proceeded to get smacked around by him as well, because apparently he worked like fairly stiff and didn't know how to do like movie Hollywood punches and hits, so he kind of just smacked them around for real. And including particularly when he was holding the shield up and Ox Baker is swinging him with that bat. Kurt Russell was pretty much in fear for his life in those moments where this big guy's swinging this bat pretty much full force at him. Like if that shield wasn't there, he would have been in big trouble. But then the kind of tables are reversed when we go to the close-up of Snake doing the spiked bat into the back of the head of the big wrestler dude. In that part, apparently, Ox Baker was he was the one that was afraid, because that's a real bat. Those are real fucking nails. And that's really sticking, not in the back of his head. There's just a little block of wood sitting on the back of his head. That's how low budget this film was. There's no special composite shot here. He really swung that bat full force at his head. And if it didn't go into that block, he would be fucking dead. Yeah.
Risky
Like, good luck
business.
getting insurance on this film.
And if I had to guess when it comes to Ox Baker, and obviously I don't know how true this is. This is just something I'm totally spitballing because of my kind of interest in wrestling. I wouldn't be surprised if Ox Baker was more than capable of being safe and fighting in a stunt type of
I
way.
assume
But
he
it
was.
would,
That's just the way that Carpenter and
yeah.
that tell it on the commentary.
But I wouldn't be surprised if, because he is quite an old school wrestler and he comes from a time where keeping kayfabe was still quite important, he probably thought, you know what, I better not go too easy on this stunt
Yeah.
guy and this
It's like
actor,
Ric Flair
because
or Sammartino. They're going
yeah,
easy on you.
because what if they then tell everybody, oh, Ox Baker, he's like as gentle as a
Oh, he's a
kitten
big
and I
kitten.
don't get hurt at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just those wrestlers, they're just actors, they don't hurt you at all. I wouldn't be surprised if in his mind he was thinking maybe I should protect the business a bit and just lay it in a bit
Yeah. I
stiff
totally
with
get
these
that
guys.
impression watching this.
And the clock is ticking this whole
That
time.
clock is ticking away, man. Speaking of the clock ticking away, it might take a brief pause here for a moment. Oh, yeah, we're back again. Moving on to the next scenes where they're hauling ass across New York and the drone has been destroyed on the rooftop by the bloody crazies who must have escaped from a George Romero film.
Which, that could be something for a future discussion as well. The crazies, now
Yeah,
that you've mentioned this. Um,
why
yeah,
not?
so the glider is out of the question. So they're left with the situation where the only way out of the city is to take the bridge. The bridge that we mentioned earlier is mined. So we did mention that the brain does know the location of most of the
It
mines,
does, and
but not
that's going
all
to
of them.
come up later on.
So it's time to get a car and get the hell out of here. At this point as
Yeah,
well,
call the wild bunch.
things are hitting hell in a handbasket here, because the Duke is very pissed off. His chief henchman has been killed. His snake has escaped. The president is gone. His bargaining chip is on his way out of here. So he's pretty angry. So we
Yeah,
got a
reminds me of
situation
Mad
now
Max
where
2 at this point.
oh yeah, because we're getting into now some real
He's
hairy
like, come in, he's
streetcar
fucked up all this
chasing.
shit, and now he's clearing off, heading for the sunset. And they're like, hang on, hang on, we're coming after you.
And this really is kind of what we've been building to the whole time, because this is the great escape, so to speak. They're about to try and make their way out of the city, so it's all about to go down.
Yeah, an awesome production value here with all the location stuff with like the graffiti on the walls and garbage everywhere, and there's some dodgy old cars, taxi that have got ripped in half in that bottom scene down there, and the old leading up to this chase across the bridge, which also reminds me. I mean, this was filmed obviously a long time before, but films like Batman and Dark Knight, the old iconic New York bridges, or French Connection, Gene Hackman, the under or over these bridges going in and out of New York, car chase scenes, man. Like this, it's not really a car chase film or anything, but they do pull off a reasonable cool scene here, and with some good bit of carnage and destruction on a low budget.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of cool just general car action moments in this movie. Like I know we kind of glossed over some of them, but there is a lot of just like, cars getting rammed by other cars or driving through barricades and
Yeah, that was
dodging
in
explosions.
that scene earlier. That was actually Chevy Chase just having his vacation in New York. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time in the old mobile, when he was just didn't work out for him, so he got out of there and went somewhere else.
He thought there was a Christmas tree farm on the other side of that stack
He
of wrecked
thought there
cars
was.
he just had to get to.
That's a spoiler alert for a couple of weeks from now. We're gonna be doing Christmas vacation.
Yeah, the Duke is pissed and he wants the president back, and he's going to do anything to get him.
I love the
But yeah,
shot on
just
the
to
bottom left there of all the like Snake and Borgnine and the other lot all piled into that car.
yeah, great facial expressions on all of them as well. It's just like, let's just get the hell out of
Yeah,
here.
look how dark that is, but you can actually see their faces, like they're still lit how they want them to be.
So the question is, though, will they be able to escape from New York?
Good question. Good question. Brings us on to the next bit here. Got a bit of the
We've
old Harry Dean Stanton. My question is, if he knew where all those mines were, why the fuck is he walking straight into one of them?
well, this is the thing. He knew where
What in a
most of
panic
them were.
situation, I guess.
Yeah, and look, I suppose they were in the process of mapping it out. So I suppose it would
Yeah,
make sense that there'd still be a few of them unmapped, and therefore
I think it's a bit of
those
a
have been
gag. I don't know
stepped
if it's
on.
intentional or not, but it seems like a bit of a gag. The airline is like, I know the location of all these mines, and later on, he occasionally just walks into one of them.
And it's it's pretty sad for a lot of these characters, because we have
Yeah.
Tabby, Eddie, and Brain, and now one by one they die. So we've got
Mm-hmm.
Tabby's been killed in a crash. Brain steps on the mine, as we just mentioned,
And
and
it's only
then
like nanoseconds. I had to slow this down to like it's not even 2 seconds. That explosion scene, I had to slow it down, and then he's just gone.
Adrian Barbeau's character Eddie comes to the conclusion, like, well, Brain's dead. He was kind of my main squeeze.
They didn't
I
know
got
she was
nothing.
dead in the first cut.
That's right.
They had
That's
to go
right.
back and reshoot that little insert where she's like, "Oh no,
Yeah,
I'm definitely dead. I've got
they
tomato
they
sauce and everything everywhere."
I think as the story goes, yeah, they filmed this. They saw from the test screenings that it wasn't clear that her character had been killed
Yeah, had
by the
died.
Duke.
So in post
So
production did the insert.
do you know where they filmed the extra shot of her lying on the ground?
I do not know.
In her house, in her garage.
That,
They literally they
you,
told her
you never
they
know.
told her just
You never know.
yeah. They got her to lie down on the garage floor. They cleared out everything on the garage, and then they just
Oh
reversed
yeah,
the
I
car
remember
up
now. That was
here
on the
beside her,
commentary I was listening to this week.
and they're just like, lie here, look dead.
Yeah, we get another cool shot of some big old computers and machines and whatnot, and people looking busy. And Lee Van Cleef, and they're kind of a bit pissed off about what exactly is going on. Is this Snake succeeded, or he's going to die, or he's got the guy? The kind of in between, don't exactly know what's happening. And we get the final chase up to the end of the wall, and old Isaac Hayes is chasing all the way. The president, Snakes managed to get the president up and over the wall thanks to the special, I don't know, security or forces on the other side throw, like a rope zip line thing down. They get the president up first, of course, and the president just goes fucking nuts. he's like, by the way, remember when you were trying to shoot me off that wall earlier? Well, guess who's got a fucking machine gun now?
Yeah, because he manages to get a rifle from one of the guards that's just been shot by the Duke,
Yeah,
and he lays into the Duke all the while
he does.
repeating the
And he's
the
just
lines
like
that the Duke
slagging him off
is
and yelling crazy shit at him.
because the whole time he's like, "You're the Duke, you're number one," while emptying a full clip into him. I should probably mention actually
And
as
then,
well, but before we forget,
yeah,
because he's appeared numerous times and we haven't mentioned him by name. Lee Van Cleef's right-hand man is played by Tom Atkins, who's also another John Carpenter
yeah.
regular. He's appeared in stuff like The Fog and Halloween 3 and all sorts of Carpenter-related and aligned
Oh, the
stuff.
fog's
So,
so good, man.
oh, so good, so good. But yeah, we've really hit the crunch time now. So Snake's at the wall. President's after gunning down the Duke. He's up, and Snake's getting lifted to safety here. But the whole time, I mean, the minutes, the seconds, they're counting down, and
Yeah,
he
that
still has
little
those
explosive's going to go off
explosives.
any time in his neck.
We need to get these explosives taken care of. So manages to get to the other side, runs up to the doctor. Doctor does the thing to neutralize the explosives, and
It's like the
woohoo,
reverse
mission
what he did
complete.
earlier. I'll jab my thumbs into in your neck like Fist of the North Star style.
Yeah. How sickening would it have been for Snake if he ran up? Doctor's like, yeah, yeah, okay, okay.
Died like
Oh,
2
actually, you know
seconds
what?
before.
This is actually the wrong antidote thing. I left the other
Yeah.
one in my car. Sorry.
The only way you could make that funny would be if he ran up there and the doctor's like, stay away. And he's like, no. And he runs up and grabs him and he just head explodes
Little
and
bit
takes out the
bug.
doctor as well. And you'd be laughing yourself, man.
So we're led to believe everything's all good. The
It's all
president
kosher.
starts getting cleaned up, and
And
he's
I
been
love
cleaned
how
up.
the president, like 30 seconds before, he's like sitting up on the wall going, ha ha ha, I'm killing you. And now he's like, yes, I must be the president now.
We get
It's like he's just an actor.
it is, and you know what? In many ways, it's a little disappointing because I suppose you think because he did show that rage and that humanity at the end, that
Yeah,
he probably
that's
understand maybe the
understandable.
plight. Yeah, but like you said, straight away he's getting cleaned up. He's just wants to deliver his speech, and when Snake
Hmm.
approaches him, he kind of gives a bit of a half-hearted, oh, well, the people who gave their lives will be remembered, and their sacrifice to the country won't be forgotten. And Snake is kind of like really bemused and just thinks, well, that's a bit of a bullshit response. These people gave their lives to get you out. They're dead now. You'd think you could at least address that, but he just kind of gets brushed off. The job is done. So the president, he begins to deliver his televised speech. We also see Lee Van Cleef kind of hanging around, and he offers Snake a full-time gig working with him, which
Yeah.
Snake declines. Um, which, don't get me wrong, in another universe, I'd love if there was like a movie starring Lee Van Cleef and Kurt Russell as partners, but that's a discussion for another time. But
Yeah, it's a very
yeah,
Metal Gear
so
Solid and John Rambo sort of movie.
So the president is delivering his speech, and he believes he has the data tape in hand. He goes to
Is it supposed
insert
to
it
be
into
something to do
recording.
with like nuclear weapons or nuclear disarmament or some
Yes,
kind of thing?
nuclear
But
fusion, I
Snake
think
has
they
switched the
mentioned.
cassettes. He's pulled it out and he's put it on a music cassette instead of this proper cassette it's supposed to be.
Yep, he's hit him with the old switcheroo, and
And he's just walking
it's
away, unspooling the tape, pulling it apart.
it's brilliant, because we actually that kind of funky music that plays is it's from a tape that Cabby had in his cab that he liked to listen
Yeah,
to. So Snake had obviously done the switcheroo with the two tapes, and as you mentioned, we see Snake walking away in the background and ripping up the tape and chucking it on the
president of
ground.
what?
Yeah. and it's he good enough for them because, like I said, he was very kind of wishy-washy when it came to finally being rescued. He didn't really show the gratitude and respect to Snake and the people who
Yeah,
risked their lives. So in a way, it was a big, well, fuck you and your tape. If your tape's so
yeah. He's done
important,
the mission, but at the same time, he's Snake, and like, just fuck your president, fuck your stupid speech.
But look, he walks away a free man and pardoned of all his crimes.
Yeah. The nice thing is that no one knows that he switched it. That he's walked away, that no one can see him. So he's pulled it off like a magician. He's done a switcheroo, and we get to see it as the audience, but no one can prove he's done it or know anything about it. They didn't know that any of the other idiots the president encountered weren't the ones that switched the tape.
Exactly. Yeah, I like to think he got away scot-free with that one.
Yeah.
Brilliant ending though, and absolutely just a perfect ending to the story. And of course our
I
beautiful
love the
John
ending.
Carpenter font. That you've kind of spoiled this font for me now by just telling me that it's only used because you
Yeah, I
ran
told
out
you the
of money.
inside baseball story in these fonts with no budget. John Carpenter was using Canva before Canva was invented. That's what he was.
I'll always love it though, and anytime I see the words John Carpenter's, it doesn't really matter what the title is underneath it. I
Yeah,
know I'm probably going to get some
John
enjoyment out of it.
Carpenter's Velvet Fog. John
John
Carpenter's
Carpenter's Ghosts
Transformers.
of
That's the word that
Mars.
would excite me, even though it wouldn't make sense.
John Carpenter's Star Wars.
Star Wars. John Carpenter's WCW.
Oh, yeah, really got me excited. Yeah, it'd be
That
cool. Like
reminds me,
we did,
before
yeah.
we finish up, we did have a fan leave a message for us this week who's a bit of a fan of the show.
Oh,
Been watching it for a while. I was going to play at the start, but we didn't get to it. So let's chuck it up now before we say goodbye.
For the record, I wrestled Mark or Boba Hicks once in the 90s, and he kicked out of the leg drop. Don't ask me how, brother. I hear you guys are doing great on the Boba Joe show. I listen to it every week. And as long as you're paying me for these bits, I'll keep listening. What's that mean, Gene? I'm not being paid nothing at all. Well, then why in fuck am I reading out this bullshit? I mean, brother, I've never even heard of these losers, let alone listen to their show. Well, screw you guys. I'm going home.
A mixed message from that fan, but I don't know if he's checked
yeah,
out the show. That's okay. He's entitled to his
yeah.
opinions, I
Well,
guess.
yeah, I heard of that guy. I don't think he can always be trusted to tell the truth, but
Oh, he likes a
we'll give
few
him the
porky
benefit of
pies.
the doubt. No doubt, no doubt. Well, look, as you said, all fans are entitled to their opinion. Of course,
Yeah,
the only opinion that matters to us is the opinion of the network executives that control everything that we do and that finance
it
this
does matter.
show. So as long as they are happy, we are happy.
Yep. As long as they've got some power ties and suits and big shoulder pads, we're gold.
As long as the report shows that we're hitting our key viewing demographic of males aged 30 to 50, they're happy.
Yeah, if human beings who exist on planet Earth are watching it, aliens are welcome. People from alternate dimensions, if you can get it on your satellite cable subscription, you're most welcome to tune in and watch the show.
And what can our viewers expect for next week's show, Johnny?
Well, thinking we'll go. It's a little early, but a week from now, it would technically it will be December. For nerds, I'm thinking we'll go Jingle All the Way. I've already built the show for that one, and for a chaser, we can do National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And I was thinking it'd be nice to have them in the second half of December. I thought, fuck it, get them in the first half because everyone's going to be on holiday mode in those last weeks. And you spend time with family, you do all the things, you eat too much, and you fall asleep on the couch watching wrestling or whatever. And then New Year's, you kind of catch up on whatever TV shows and kind of shit that you take a break from. So I thought if we put our stuff up early, people can watch it whenever they want in December and be merry and carry on and all that.
Sounds like a plan. Christmas is coming early on the Bob and Joe show.
Yeah, I'll get them out there, and then the following weeks we can do another WrestleMania or whatever, and then if you like, take a break so you can spend your time with family and whoever. We can have a couple of shows stacked up, and people can just watch them when they like. And
yeah, don't worry, folks. You'll still have plenty of content to watch over the Christmas holidays. We're not going to leave you high and dry.
Oh, we'll make more shows, but I just thought get the Christmas ones in early, and people can watch them when they feel like it, which is what I do, because I don't give a fuck about anyone's schedule. I watch things when I want to watch them, whether it's 3 a.m. or 5 p.m. or whatever I feel like watching something.
Yeah, we don't care. We don't care if you watch your Christmas movies in the middle of the summer. It's all good.
Nah. Man, I literally went from watching Escape from New York to Jingle All the Way to Uncle Buck all in a row earlier this week, because I thought I'm going to make shows for all of those. I'll probably save Uncle Buck for January. Spoiler alert. But yeah, that's
Uncle Buck.
I do too. He doesn't give a fuck like Kurt Russell. He's like, he does actually. He does actually care about the family, but he's got that kind of attitude. It's like, yeah, he does things his own way. And great film. I love when he gets the drill and takes all the door off the hinges and busts it on the guy, but it's not the girl.
Yeah, his treatment of the dodgy boyfriend always brings a smile to my face.
Yeah.
You know, we won't get into it too much, though. We'll save it for the show.
They play up a little horror movie element there where he's like scares him and he runs away, and then later on he does a bit with the golf club. But yeah, I'll play the show outro here. Otherwise, we'll start doing an Uncle Buck commentary on the end moments of Escape from New York and confuse people.
Okay, folks. Well, look, we hope you enjoyed. If you're new, maybe consider hitting the like and subscribe. This is our kind of first John Carpenter related discussion, and I'm sure we'll be coming. Yeah, we'll definitely be coming back. We believe in JC here on this channel.
We do, not John Cleese, John Carpenter. Don't get them confused. They're both controversial saviors, but